Hello and welcome to our first webinar dedicated to making international video calls. My name is Barbara West and I'm an English trainer and product developer at Internationale. We will start by discussing how we can introduce ourselves clearly. Clear introduction is very important for effective meeting participation. In order to introduce yourself clearly, you need to state your background, describe your position in your company, and also state your function in the meeting. It is sometimes necessary to introduce others or to ask them to introduce themselves. I would advise you to practice your introduction before the meeting. You can record yourself using your phone, using your video conferencing platforms such as Zoom or WebEx or Teams, and then see how effective your introduction is and whether you like it or not, and what things you would like to improve. It's very important these days to adapt to the new digital reality. We now have to use a variety of video conferencing platforms. We need to know how they work. We need to spend some time familiarizing ourselves with the main functions of these platforms. So either when you are a participant or when you are a host of a meeting, it's very important to allow a couple of minutes for everybody to sort out their audio and video. You need to make sure that you know how to use the platform as well as how to participate in the meeting. So where the main buttons are, what the main features of the platform are, and which of them can be useful for you either for hosting or participating in the meeting. We all need to be patient and welcoming. It's very important to anticipate that some people in the meeting will not have the same technological savviness as you do, or you may in fact be struggling with some of the features of teleconferencing programs. So it's important to be patient, to ask for some time if you need it, and to give other people time if they need to familiarize themselves with the main features of our video conferencing platforms. It is also quite important, as we will see later, to not rush into the content of the meeting right away. Of course, some meetings can be rather short, so we need to be to the point. But when you communicate in English, as much as when you communicate in Dutch, I think short, small introduction to your participants or just a small talk about how everybody's doing is very effective. It's also useful when you try to help others. In the meeting, there are a lot of people. Some of them need help. Some of them need some assistance with some buttons or some functions in PowerPoint. So if you know how to help them, it's very good to offer them help politely. For the hosts, as well as for participants, it's important to set the rules and know what the rules are. If you are chairing the meeting, please ask participants to mute themselves if there is any background noise in their house and their surroundings. Also, please decide when you would like to ask or answer questions. Some hosts say that they would like to receive questions as they go along with the presentation, and some hosts say, please reserve your questions until the end of my presentation, and we will have some time to have a Q&A session. If anybody needs to leave, they can send you a message via chat and then leave quietly. It's interesting that the recording these days can conflict with our privacy laws. So sometimes if your participants, if you're not sure if all the participants are willing to record and agree to recording, you need to ask them. And if you do, please make sure that none of the names and the faces show in the video or in the audio of the meeting. And it's important to share your screen safely. We have a lot of private information, including our bank details, personal email, a variety of other sources that we have open on our laptops or computers. And when we have a meeting during which we would like to share something from our laptop or computer, it's important to select the right page and try not to share the whole desktop that you have, because you may have some things that you don't want people necessarily to see. So you need to think about it ahead of time and make sure that you have all the documents that you would like to share open before the meeting. Let's talk a little bit about the language that can be useful for meetings. And one of the first situations that can require some preparation is clarifying and confirming. Sometimes we are afraid to interrupt in a language that's not our native language. Because we don't want to look rude, and we don't want to show that we can't do it in the best way possible. But I think interrupting is a very important skill, and interrupting with the tools that you normally use in Dutch, but trying to find an equivalent in English. For example, excuse me, sorry to interrupt, but, or excuse me, I just have a quick question. Excuse me, the last point was not very clear to me. Could you please clarify or explain? Just a quick question. Could we please go back to the previous point? My apologies. Could I just confirm that I have understood you correctly? You said. Rephrasing is a very, very useful technique for buying yourself a little bit of time to think about what you will say next as well. I would like to stress that in Dutch, as well as in many other languages, you have your equivalents of polite language. And in English, we have our modal verbs, could, would, may, shall we, it may or it might, excuse me, please, and possible or possibly. And it's important to work them into your language when you either interrupt or ask for explanation, or just have small talk, or give instructions, for example, during the presentation. It is certain that you can do this in your native language, but sometimes we're not very sure how to do this in English. So practicing these phrases ahead of time and working them into your language, into the phrases that you think will be useful for you during the meeting, can be very, very beneficial. Now, this is an interesting topic. It's called hesitation techniques. And hesitation techniques refers to what to say when you don't know what to say. There are some professional phrases that can be used to fill the silence when you don't know what to say or are looking for the right words, which can happen to everybody, even to native speakers, and might happen to you in Dutch as well. So in Dutch, you probably already have these phrases ready. But in English, we also use them to fill this uncomfortable silence or to fill some gaps. So here are our suggestions, and you might find other suggestions during your meetings or presentations that you attend. For example, well, that's a very good question. Let me see. What would be the best way to put it? Or what is the best way? What's the best word to express this? Yeah. I see your point. Let me think about it. That's a great point. In fact, I was just thinking about it. Thank you for your question. It is very important for our discussion. Could you repeat your question, please? As you can see, repetition can also be a little bit of a buffer phrase because you buy a little bit of time to think about how to answer the question or the thing you're going to say next. So to summarize, I would like to bring your attention to the 3 P's that we have discussed today. Be prepared, be patient, be polite. Be prepared means try to record yourself. If you know that you will have to introduce yourself and a whole group of people will be listening to you, it's good to try and practice your introduction. Record yourself, listen, and get better. Be patient. Be patient with yourself as well as with others, because we live in this new, interesting world where a lot of technology is coming our way and we have to use it effectively. And it does need time for us to adjust. Be polite. As well as in Dutch or any other native language, we have a variety of ways to be polite and to show to people that we respect them. And I think using modal verbs or using nicely phrased sentences and small talk can create this good rapport with your audience. And as you saw in our presentation, have a toolbox of useful phrases. In your native language, you already have these phrases readily available when you speak or make a presentation or participate in a meeting. But this toolbox of useful phrases may not be readily available for you in English. That's why you need to work on it and expand it with the phrases that you think might be useful for you. And record yourself to see how you can improve. And I'd like to thank you very much for following our first webinar. This is the first in the series of webinars that we will offer on useful topics, tips and techniques in using English for a variety of goals, either in video conferencing meetings or in emails or in telephone conversations. So please follow us at deliciotalent.nl and check out what new webinars we have in a couple of months. Thank you.